So, you're about to run your first session. Your notes are probably open, your dice are all lined up, and there's this quiet little hum of panic starting to build in the back of your mind.
Yeah? Sound familiar? What if I forget a rule? What if they get bored? What if I'm just not any good at this? These are the questions that keep pretty much every new dungeon master awake the night before their first game. It's that classic imposter syndrome, right? That feeling that you're just one forgotten rule away from the whole table finding out you have no clue what you're doing.
Okay, I need you to really hear me on this one. That fear is completely 100% normal. It is not a warning sign. It doesn't mean you're unprepared or that you're going to fail. Every single DM you look up to, every one of them, felt this exact same way before they sat down for their first game. You're walking a well-worn path.
Hey, welcome to the Dungeon Master's Apprentice. We're all about helping you run better games one session at a time. And today, we're going to cut right through that anxiety and give you a super simple framework for what actually matters in session one so you can walk to that table with confidence.
So, let's talk about the real metric of success, because I promise it's not what you think. All that pressure you're feeling, it comes from chasing the wrong goals. So the very first thing we have to do is completely recalibrate how you measure a good first session.
Just look at this. This slide shows the huge gap between what we think a successful session is and what it actually is. Over on the left, that's the pressure we put on ourselves, right? To have perfect rules knowledge, to give a flawless performance, to have total control. But look at the right side. That's the truth. Did the game start? Did your players get to make choices? And here's the big one. Does everyone at the table want to play again? That's it. That is the entire checklist.
And all of this boils down to one core philosophy I want you to remember. Momentum beats perfection. Your number one job in this first session is not to be correct, it's to keep the game moving forward. Think about it. If you have to stop everything for 5 minutes to look up some obscure rule, the energy at the table just dies. But if you make a confident ruling on the spot and keep the story going, no one is going to notice or care if you were technically wrong. Players will always forgive a small mistake, but they won't forgive as being bored. So if you don't have to memorize the entire player's handbook, what do you actually need to prepare? Let's break down the absolute bare minimum prep list. This is literally all it takes to get the ball rolling.
That's it. I'm serious. Just these 3 things. Number 1, a starting situation. You're all in a quiet tavern when the doors suddenly burst open. Simple. Number 2, a reason to act. A panicked villager screams that goblins are dragging away the baker's son. Boom, instant motivation. And number 3, an obstacle. The goblins have set a few simple traps on the path leading out of town. See? You don't need a 20-page document, you just need a spark to get the engine started. Your players will provide all the fuel you need.
Okay, now for my favorite part and maybe the most important part of all of this. Let's talk about all the heavy baggage you've been carrying around, all the things you think you need to have prepared. I am now giving you official permission to just drop all of it.
Just look at this list. For session 1, you do not need the complete history of your world. You don't need a 3-year campaign arc plotted out. You definitely don't need perfectly balanced encounters. You don't need a mastery of every rule, and you absolutely do not need to do a bunch of theatrical voices and accents. And please, forget about doing it like the pros you see online. That's a performance. Your only job is to run your first game.
Your authority at the table, it doesn't come from knowing every rule in the book. It comes from making clear, confident decisions. When a tricky situation comes up and you're not sure, just look at your players and say, you know what, for tonight, here's how we're going to handle it. We can look up the official rule later if we need to. That's not a failure. That is a sign of a great DM who values the game's flow more than their own ego. That is a strength.
And here is the real secret. That moment where your stomach drops because you forgot that the monster had some special ability, your players have no idea. They haven't read your notes. To them, whatever is happening is the story. What feels like a huge failure to you is either completely invisible or they just assume it was an intentional part of the story. They're on your side.
If you want more personal thoughts on RPG design and consequences, especially the ideas that don't always fit into a video, I write a short newsletter between uploads. There's a link in the description if you want that.
So, as we wrap this up, I want to leave you with one final thought. This is the idea I want you to hold on to right before you sit down at that table, look at your friends, and ask that magic question. So, what do you do?
This first session is not a test. It is not your final exam. It's not a performance to be judged. It's practice. It's the first rep. You become a good dungeon master by running games, not by preparing for them forever. Your goal is not to be a master. Your goal is simply to begin. You're so much more ready than you think you are. Now go have fun.
And until next time, adventure on.